Oh my gosh, guys, we've got some Star Citizen drama, guys. Let's ring that horn here. Oh dear. Star Citizen had no other option. Staff leak to press. This is from Billard News. I am not familiar with this channel here, and they don't seem to be familiar with Star Citizen either. They are doing mostly, gaming, talking about lots of different types of games here, a little bit of Ubisoft and a little bit of every this and that. So let's see what they are going to be talking about, saying about Star Citizen here. I've got a feeling, guys, this was released 7 hours ago. I've got a feeling that we are going to have some clickbait, guys. I got a feeling that this is going to be misinformed clickbait and just rage bait, but let's see. We're going to call them for their bullshit if it is bullshit, and if not, then we're going to be praising them. But I think that's one of these videos that we have seen all too often, unfortunately. Let's check it out right now.
Stuff you can walk around the...
Sponsored by Squarespace.
18 days. That is how long Cloud Imperium Games demanded their staff crunch to create a pristine demo of Squadron 42. Now, Squadron 42 is the episodic single-player game, basically a AAA game based in the Star...
No, it's not a AAA game. That is a real quadruple A game. You talk about quadruple A games, right, from Ubisoft, Skull and Bones, and they also called Star Wars Outlaws a quadruple A game. No, Squadron 42 really is the real deal.
Citizen universe made using all the Star Citizen tech. It's got full FPS, EVA stuff, you can walk around the big capital ships, and it has proper cinematic ambitions, which means big actors. You've got Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, Mark Strong, Andy Serkis, Liam Cunningham, John Rhys-Davies. Big names. And a level of production...
They did not mention Henry Cavill. Come on.
...value and attention to detail that befits all of that. Now, of course, there were crashes. Not all was well. And when we examine the overall story, one thing's clear. Chris Roberts, the man in charge, has got the many traits of a typical visionary. Now, It's a vision that I even backed a decade ago. It's his dream game. It's also...
Oh, he's a backer. Okay. All right, cool. He's almost 10 years ago, almost an original backer. All right. So far, so good. Hey, so far, so good. So far, so good.
Kind of my dream game. That's why I backed it. But the pathway to here has been bumpy. Deadlines have been missed. Monetization has got very controversial. And right now, it looks like their yearly earnings have somewhat plateaued.
That's something that we talked a little bit earlier, right, on the main channel.
Actually know the Cloud Imperium Games' burn rate. That's how much money they spend every month. We know it's massive, and with this all being timed for Citizencon, it seems that they needed a win, something to instill confidence and to bring in fresh blood. Fresh blood?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, right, the two vehicles at Citizencon, meh, right? Also, another thing that blew up, that blew it up is John Crew. Did you guys see what John Crew said on Spectrum, where he said that the Galaxy would not have base building modules, and then he had to check out with his team, and then his team said, oh, actually it will. As much as I appreciate John Crew, that is a shame. You are fucking John Crew, man. You're supposed to know your ships. You're the head. When you're John Crew, you are the head of the ship team. You're supposed to know what you're talking about because you're the boss. And the guy didn't even know that the Galaxy was supposed to have base building modules. I mean, that does not give confidence to backers. When I was baffled. At first, I was like, what? They changed the ship without telling us? And then, what? John Crew doesn't know that? He had to come to Spectrum and apologize. I mean, good for him, right? Good for him to apologize and say that he was wrong. But still, that did not look good at all, right? Yeah, that got you too, Maximus, right? That really, and that's why that's the reason why I did not buy the Starlancer. Because first I was like, man, maybe I'll get a Starlancer and upgrade it to the base building module. But when I was saying that, I was like, all right, my wallet is closed, dude. I'm not buying anything because you guys don't know what you guys are talking about. You guys don't know what you're doing. That was a really bad look here. And I don't want to, again, as I said, I like the guy. I think John Crew is a very likable guy. He's done a really good job here, but that was a big gaffe, I would say. What he did on Spectrum, big gaffe.
Of course, at the cost of 18 days of back-to-back crunch, which has a tinge of desperation, but to get a demo, to get a 90-minute YouTube video so good that people would have to pay attention. I can't deny—
And they did. That YouTube video, that Squadron 42 demo was amazing. I made a couple of... on the second channel, you will find my reactions also from Citizencon. Let's just say I was blown away from A to Z. Shortest 90 minutes ever. But when it was over, I was like, what? It's finished already? You know, I was like, oh my gosh, almost 2 hours, you know? Yeah, that was amazing. It's true. It's true. I'm so hyped about Squadron 42 after what we saw at Citizencon. That's true. But I'm not bringing CIG any money because I'm an original backer. But it's true that players who may not have been interested in Star Citizen, maybe they prefer the solo campaign, maybe they thought Star Citizen was a scam. We're going to talk about scams later, by the way, so stay to the because the next video, next segment is about a real scam. But they thought Star Citizen was a scam, Squadron 42 was a scam, and then they saw that, I was like, wow, okay, maybe it's not that much of a scam. Maybe it was worth all these years.
How impressive that demo is. We see sprawling capital ships that you can explore, first-person combat, battles that feel intense. And I do say this stuff as a backer from back in the day. I've regularly played the persistent universe. I've done the space battles. I've done the FPS. But seeing it all brought together with this level of production value and the framing of a single-player story is quite incredible. It's compelling. Between the world building, the capital ship exploration, the massive space battle finale, you can see the ambition that's here. And you can—
Well, no, it's not the finale. This is not the finale what you're looking at. This is the first mission. That is the start of the game. It's not the finale, it's the prologue.
You can contrast that with some of Roberts' most early work, the Wing Commander franchise.
Of course.
And the funny thing is, you see the ambition is essentially the same thing. What's changed is tools, technology, and production value. Now, all of this arrives a year after being declared feature complete. And I know a lot of people will read that and think, well, that's obviously a lie. It couldn't be feature complete. Well, there could be some features that aren't, but actually, one of the biggest problems with AAA is that polish and—
Yes, this guy gets it. You know, I was afraid that we're going to be seeing some clickbait, hate bait. So far, so good. So far, so good. So far, I'm going to say, you know, he knows what he's talking about. And I can tell he's been playing Star Citizen, has been following the project. Okay, all right. And yes, he's very right. Polishing is going to be key for Squadron 42. And we have seen that at the demo. We have seen that with the crashes, right? That's why we still need polishing. Even after 1 year of polishing already, the game still crashes. The game still has stutters. The game still has, you know, graphical glitches, and that's normal. They still need to iron it out. They are going to be releasing the game in 2026, which seems like a reasonable time span. It seems like a reasonable schedule. And it's going to give them enough time to iron it out and give them the flawless, perfect experience that backers have been expecting for Squadron 42. So, yeah.
And bug fixes are treated as the last stretch, as an afterthought. But in reality, they are what make a game a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10.
Yes.
If you're wondering where the next Hollow Knight is, yeah, it's because they take this part seriously. So I don't deny that they've been working, I expect that they have been. But that, of course, doesn't help their problem with trust. Now, Chris Roberts himself took the stage, of course, after—
That's something that we talked about so many times, right? Trust. Trust is really the big issue, especially as we mentioned John Crew not knowing his own ships, you know. How can you trust? And I don't want to be a hater. I've been a backer of this game since the very beginning. October 2012, I've been there. I've been defending this game with every inch of my soul. But it's also important to be realistic and open your eyes whenever you need be, right? Trust is really a problem sometimes when you get, community managers not being very respectful towards the backers. Remember when we were called roadmap watchers, and when we were told that we were the problems, right, with the roadmap. I mean, people still have that as a sour taste in their mouth, and also the fact that we see, the head of ships not knowing his own ships, that causes issues with trust. Absolutely.
After the crashes, he joked about how the demo gods brought their wrath before dropping the date. 2026. Another 2 years minimum, which, hey, to me that's fine. I'm happy to wait for a good game. But he did assure people that Squadron 42 has been more stable these last few weeks. Those are rather pivotal few weeks. A pivotal few weeks in which a lot of people reached out to the press, and that means we've got plenty to talk about. October 1st.
So yeah, the past few weeks, that's what he mentioned, right? The crunch. Apparently, there was indeed a crunch at CIG where staff were required to work 7 days a week, right? Now, guys, when there are deadlines, it's always like that. When there are critical events, it's always like that. It's not just in the video game industry. There are plenty of industries when it's like that. And then, of course, employers compensate for the extra work. You know, these CIG developers, they're not working 7 days a week for free, of course. They're not going to get nothing out of that. CIG are going to compensate it. They are going to get bonuses. They are going to get extra money. They are going to get extra paid holidays afterwards, right? So I'm not going to... I think it's very immature and childish to make a drama that's like, oh my god, these poor employees, oh, they're not making any money, they have to work 7 days a week, oh, there's a crunch, it's so terrible. Grow up, okay? It's just how it works. And in the end, if they successfully make it, if they fulfill their goals, then they are going to get rewards, right? But you got to work hard to get rewards, and that's why sometimes you've got to get into tough situations, which include crunch time.
2024, a company-wide memo drops, and the requirements are rather staggering. Number one, a little bit less crazy, is that staff must be in office Friday, October 4th and 11th. Those are typically work-from-home days. Where things change, though, is Saturdays, October 5th and 12th, are now mandatory office work days. Yes, a 6-day work week, that's a little bit more spicy. Where things change, though, is Sundays. They also became work days. October 6th and 13th would be mandatory work days for the team, but staff were only encouraged to take those days in the office. They could work from home. It's just as it was in Genesis. And on the 7th day, God was really far behind schedule, but ordered himself a cheeky Nando's to his home office.
That's what I said. You know, you've got to do what you got to do. If you want to meet a deadline, if you want to fulfill an objective, that's okay. CIG will make it up to them later, right? Usually there are slow times happening after Christmas. The time between, Christmas and usually February, usually January is very slow time for stars. It's planning month, right? So it's okay. They will be able to take a breath. They will be able to have a longer holiday for the holiday season, right? It's fine. It's fine.
In that original memo, staff were told they would get the time back later. They were told that there would be breakfast and lunch provided, but where it gets a little bit more interesting is that 11 minutes after journalists contacted Cloud Imperium Games about this, asking a few questions, staff suddenly found out that they were also getting a paid holiday scheduled after Citizencon. Almost as if, from a managerial perspective, they kind of clocked on to just how bad this looks. And in situations like this, it's worth thinking,
Now, he's got a point here. Very often with CIG, when there are controversy, right after the controversy pops out, we get a little compensation or a little extra something. It's true that they should do it before it leaks. It's true they should do it before drama arises, right? But hey, they still did it anyway, right?
Is this malice or is this a management problem, a time management, a schedule problem? You see, everybody knows that extreme crunch like this is borrowing money from tomorrow, but at a ludicrous interest rate. You burn people out. So when it does happen anyway, we can deduce that the people who made the call did not feel that they had any more option. To them, it wasn't just bugs worth fixing because that would be nice for the demo. No, you only make a large, controversial call like this that will tank morale at your company if you really feel like you need to make it. And
yeah, for season, and not just that, it's also Alpha 4.0. Hey, Citizen Kilroy, how's it going, man? You just watched that video as well, right? Yeah, it's actually a good one. I was afraid it would be, clickbait, hate bait, but it's making a lot of good points, but points that still need to be discussed, right? Now, I was talking about also 4.0. This is also the other reason why they have a crunch, I think. Why is my AC not working? Sorry about this. This is also why they need to have a crunch. Is because deadline is also coming up for 4.0. 4.0 is in Evo Caddy. I don't know if you noticed, but Evo Caddy testers have also had new patches coming out on the weekends. They've had new patches coming out on Saturdays, on Sundays as well. So it's not just people creating the demo here for Squadron 42. It's not just the people working on Squadron 42. It's also the people working on 4.0.
On some things we've learned about the state of the company,
I was surprised it was a backer
does
too.
kind of make sense. And look, at the worst of times, we've all been through cycles of work a bit like that. They suck, and you can avoid them with a good solution like today's sponsor, who let you get from idea to done fast and with no bugs. They're Squarespace. And whenever I needed a job site and a game landing page, I went to them because darker context to this stuff. 100 to 150 staff gone in February 2024, primarily from their Austin and LA offices. Now, according to their sources, the severance packages that people were offered came with strings. You had to sign an NDA. If you don't sign the NDA, you do not get your severance package. And I suppose if you're wondering why we didn't really get that much information...
Oh yeah, he's talking about the people who lost their job at CH. No, that's normal. As I said, It's game development. These jobs were needed before. Squadron 42 is about to be released. We need less people, of course. Star Citizen is a little bit different, right? Because Star Citizen still needs a lot of development, especially on server machine, right? So it's totally normal that they are restructuring themselves. It's also normal that they are recentering their activities on where their headquarters here. The headquarters of CIG is not at Santa Monica anymore. The headquarters at CIG is obviously Manchester. That's where Chris Roberts is. That's where almost everybody is, right? It's their biggest office as well. It's also perhaps where it's the cheapest to operate. Let's keep that in mind as well, because they also have a lot of tax benefits in the UK for video game development.
At the time, well, that would probably be why. You must ask yourself, why would they do that NDA? And specifically, why would they do it in their situation? They're not a regular AAA publisher where everybody just expects bad things will happen. They're a community-backed game, a ludicrously community-backed game. So any bad stories that employees do choose to share with that community, well, those will feel like a personal betrayal. And it is that use of backers' money that makes other things a little more curious. Enter
Yeah, it's super important, right? That this NDA from devs is super important to keep the backers' trust. In the end, this is the only thing that supports CIG. It's the backers' trust. Without all trust, there's no Star Citizen.
Manchester, nice old city, but it's got Cloud Imperium Games' big new office, and it's a monument to success. As a science fiction fan, holy shit, please. Custom paneling, the massive statues, custom cafe, no mere canteen, a cafe with baristas. One staff member sarcastically said to Insider Gaming, but at least we have baristas serving us coffee here. Lovely.
Oh my gosh. I would be happy just to be a barista at CIG, just to be at the CIG office, man. The CIG office looks phenomenal, and they kind of spend our money to build that office. That's true. But if it attracts talent, that's the thing, right? Yeah, we're spending money on the office, but it may attract talent as well, right? People may be excited to go to the office at CIG, right? In the US, there's a non-disparagement clause attached to severance. Oh, okay. I'm not very familiar with what's happening in the US, Citizen.
Now, usually this kind of office decoration is fine, it sets a tone, it builds a culture, it's impressive. Valve's office has a valve in it.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
It's even the Valve. There's the Luden statue in Kojima's office and countless others, but there's a core difference. Very often those studios are using their own money that they've generated from products that they've sold, and that is different to backing something either on Kickstarter or directly. Now, of course, the argument that a good, inspiring office is going to be good for your team holds water. That does make sense.
That's what
you want to give your people quality food. If the office coffee isn't total shite, that's great. But it's a question of balance.
Gee, that's how the elevators look like. Oh my gosh. I didn't... Oh my gosh, I didn't know it looked like this. I mean, I've never been to CIG office, right? But wow.
Value, even though this is Cloud Imperium Games' money. That's the thing. It is their money.
But that's
to
our money.
backers, it's a pledge, but to them, it's general revenue. And this opens them up to a new criticism where the community will look at every custom wall panel or extremely cool sci-fi looking door and think, why is that not going into the game? This feels like a betrayal. I'm obviously not saying that we need to lock the developers in a bare hangar with no heating. Backer money invested in good working conditions will see return on investment.
Yes.
The problem here is luxury excess, and that is what's rubbing backers and staff the wrong way.
What, is it rubbing staff the wrong way as well? I mean, if I were staff at CH, I would definitely not be rubbed the wrong way at all. I'd be hyped to work there. I don't know.
Especially when that is being built during a hiring freeze amid layoffs. Generally speaking, most...
Yeah, but... No. Sorry, you get the fart here. No. It's a business. It's and I know people like say, oh, Erad, you're so mean. Erad, you're so detached. Erad, their lives, these are people's livelihoods. I know that, but CIG is a business. They've got to do what's best for business. What you guys don't know about me is that before being a teacher here in Taiwan, I was a business owner. I had my own business for 7 years before I moved to Taiwan. I followed my wife who wanted to live here. Okay? When you are a business owner, there should be no feelings. The most important is the business. How do you keep the business afloat so that you can keep supporting the business and the people who live off that business, the employees. Without the employees, there's no business. So it might be sad that sometimes you have to sacrifice some employees so that the majority can remain and that the business can stay afloat. That's business. It's just how it works, right? So employees get hired, employees get laid off. It's just a natural cycle of things. Now, does it come at a time when a lot of employees get fired at the same time in the video game industry? Yeah. Is that unfortunate? Yes. But at the same time, it has always happened. You know, people come and go. People get hired. People get fired. And what happens to the people who get fired and lose their jobs? They create their own studio eventually. You know, new studios get created, independent studios get created. The people who worked at other big studios who got laid off, they got that work experience. You know, it is shining there on their resume. Those new independent studios, they see that, they want to hire those people, right? You got to sell yourself at the same time, right? You got to show that experience, market that experience, sell that experience, and in the end, you are going to be benefiting that because it's going to advance your career, right? It's not because you are fired, because the company needs to lay off for economical reasons, for example, right? That it's the end of the world. Yeah, it's a setback, for sure, right? It's a time where you're going to be earning less, for sure, but it's also a time where you are going to have a chance to rebound, sell yourself, you know, go out there, push yourself forward, and that is how you are going to continue your career. And this is what has always happened in the gaming industry. We've always seen that, you know, new studios coming up, being created by ex-employees of other studios before. It's a normal part of the video game industry. So I'm not worried about that at all. It sucks on a particular point, yes, but if they're smart, if these guys know what to do, if these guys can manage their career, I'm sure they'll be just fine.
Companies are set up to not allow this sort of thing to happen. There are chains of accountability, a chain of command, a board who can fire you if you make a big mistake. Here, though, there's Chris Roberts, whose name drew in millions of crowdfunding.
Well, CIG has a board as well, except that Chris Roberts is on the board and his wife too, but they do have a board too.
12 years ago, and his name certainly helped to draw me in. As an example, Freelancer, one of the last games he worked on before he did a stint in the film industry, well, it's rough around the edges, but it's got a special place in my heart. And there's another factor.
Freelancer. Oh my gosh, Freelancer. Why can't Microsoft release or re-release Freelancer, right? What's wrong with it? Can somebody please buy the rights of freelancer of Microsoft and re-release that game, please.
You will not know about unless you were there at the time. 2012 was a different gaming industry. Now, it was the gaming industry. Yes, we were angry at things. We were thinking about what EA did to Mass Effect 3, where they mandated it to be shot out in basically 2 years, slightly under. Every game came with a pre-installed grey, brown, yellow piss filter that made them all
That's true. I remember that. It was so bad. I like this guy. My gosh, I'm going to subscribe to his channel. He's awesome.
looked the same and bad, and PCs were genuinely struggling against consoles, and we were lucky to even get a decent port. It was the perfect time for Star Citizen's message of a true, ambitious vision that was entirely pro-PC.
Oh boy, how things have changed since then, right? How PCs are infinitely superior to consoles now.
Gaming. But of course, with visions come visionaries, and they can be interesting to work with and interesting to manage projects. Staff paint quite the picture. Here's a quote. "I've genuinely been sat in meetings that got derailed for 30 minutes so that the placement of objects that players are likely never to interact with could be discussed in detail. There's just no actual focus on getting the game done." Attention to detail cuts both ways. Iteration is normally a good thing. Normally. A source said this to Insider Gaming. "Sometimes the most basic features can be reviewed by him half a dozen times for it then to be scrapped or changed on the 7th review."
Well, there's Chris Roberts, right? That's not a surprise. We've known that for years already. That's how he is. First it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, we could do this and that, and then he changes his mind. You know, it's the same with every visionary. You know, George Lucas was known for doing that as well, right? I'm not comparing Chris Roberts with George Lucas, of course, but just to let you know, it's just what they do. It's just, you know, Elon Musk does that too as well. And I suppose that when I was a business owner and I had my own business and we had meetings about how to expand or how to develop new projects, I probably did that too as well. Really, and I've had that too with my own bosses too. It's what bosses do, right? It's normal.
The staff detailed deep problems. A custom game engine described as a Frankenstein, a sort of constantly mutating thing full of custom solution after custom solution, which means that if you're an experienced staff member, you're holding the whole thing together. If you're new, it's really hard to get started. And the problem, the impression is that experienced staff cannot make a proper impact at the company. So they just leave. Newer staff then join, but because they're newer, they cannot recognize problems soon enough, and they end up in a strange position where they've been there for a while, they think they're still going to ship a game, it's not went how they wanted, but they also can't afford to have so much of their career, of their CV spent at a company without shipping a game. To quote directly from Insider,
yeah, that can be a problem, right? You spend so much time in the company, you don't ship a game. I can understand. But at the same time, you know, Squadron 42 is in polishing phase, so we're that close. Maybe they'll stay until Squadron 42. We'll see, right? But yeah, Star Citizen, it's true that the development has been rough, and the game engine has been... It's been a question since the beginning, right? Well, can the CryEngine do it at the scale that we want? The CryEngine could do it with the original vision that was Star Citizen, which was basically Freelancer 2.0. That's what it was before we decided to move forward in 2015 with the vision that we have now. But the original Star Citizen, yeah, I think that the CryEngine could have easily done it. But what we're doing now is definitely quite something. Would it be possible to move to another engine? I don't think so, because of all the coding that has been done and, you know, all the technologies that were created on top of it, right? So it's just its own thing that's, yeah, as you said, is mutating and evolving, but in a very weird way. Oh my gosh, Citizen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the cheers, man.
your gaming. It's created an unhealthy place to work. You can't push back on anything, one current developer admitted. They are repeating mistakes that other companies made 20 years ago, which contributes to the shortcomings of their ambitious features. It absolutely stands
Yeah, and what they are referring to is, of course, Freelancer.
to reason. It absolutely makes sense. And some of that makes sense because Chris Roberts left the industry after he left Digital Anvil and wasn't involved in Freelancer.
There
he was
you go.
producing movies. He then came back to the games industry. But in that decade sabbatical, the industry changed a lot. It seems a lot of those lessons he did not pick up on.
Yeah, because he was busy doing other things, and he was busy thinking of what would be the next game, but with the mentality of how it was before. Looks like we have a Star Citizen commercial. it's so
I'm about to get to the money, but the money only makes sense with this. The sheer
Chris Cup Creep Rob. Oh, come on.
ambition. Because you see, the unique funding model removes something that usually enforces discipline. Just look at the progress they've made. If you compare to 2015 trailers, you can see massive improvements in almost every aspect of the
that's
game.
true.
I mean, in particular, they've got a cool new custom solution that allows the game to cluster points of interest on a planet and allows for multiple biomes to blend together for people. They talked about the 1.0 version.
Yeah, that's actually not a question, right? The state in which the game is right now is infinitely superior to how it was with Alpha 2.0. That's for sure. We're not going to talk about Alpha 1.0 and the flight mechanics though, and master modes. That's another discussion for another day. But just how the game looks and all the features that are inside, for sure, right? But it's just at what cost, and the difficulty also that was there. How difficult it was to create all of that.
Version of the persistent universe. That's basically the MMO with its endgame content, its player organizations, confirmation of the 5-star systems it would ship with. And if you want to hear about insurance and taxation in the persistent universe, that's part of a big speech at Citizencon. And if you're somebody like me, that's great. You almost want that second life as some sort of space cowboy. But the reality is it's overshot almost every single self-set deadline. You've heard some of why from
Diplo,
Insider
how's it
Gaming
going,
today.
man?
Others include how they handle FPS literally, rather than use the industry standard for first and third person cameras. How scope has exploded.
I actually something I like it, right? No third person only for cinematic view, and first person only because these are your eyes. You need to be immersed. It breaks the immersion to fly and to go out there in third person. Although I do it all the time when I land. I shouldn't be doing it, right? But it's part of the DNA of Star Citizen. It's a first person experience.
And it's the
There's eco. Really? Guys, is there eco? Because Diplo says there is eco, so that's strange. If you guys, if there's eco, please let me know in the chat.
ambition, scope creep, combined with management failures, a lack of discipline, and the wrong kind of pressure. And that's where money enters the picture. This chart is Star Citizen's revenue. You can see from 2014 to 2018 there is limited
Where's the
growth,
chart?
but then it
there it is.
exploded. The line went up, and some of that is
Hey, so how's it going, man?
what we could call business model innovations, but a lot of it is playability, especially things like persistence in
Yeah, look at this. Look at that. 2022. Poof. Oh, it's true. We've got way past $100 million a year, right?
the universe. You can log in and do some mining, do some missions, PvP, exploring, all sorts of things actually. There's now persistence in what you own, where things are placed, there's progression. And with all of that, pledge revenue surging from 37 million to 114 million by 2022 is no surprise.
I'm really surprised also to see that the subscription, right, keeps on going up. People do subscribe a lot. These are also all the different partnerships that they've had, right? Business incentives, sponsoring from other companies. That's $11 million, right? That's not bad. That's more than a month of revenue from the backers. So it's good to see that this is also increasing.
But then, from 2022 to
There
2023,
we
it
go.
was 117 million. That
We talked about that a little bit earlier on stream.
is a 3 million
If you guys are watching that on the Sunday channel, there's also a full video on that on the main channel. I strongly encourage you guys to check it out.
dollar increase. That's a small increase. And if you look at the 2024 numbers, they do appear to be rather flat, if even a little bit down.
And very down for the month of October. We saw that we're at minus 40% for this October compared to last year's October.
Now, if you're like Chris Roberts and you're prone to scope creep and missed deadlines, one thing that will keep you on track is clear consequences. Say a publisher having a deadline. And so here, money is both a blessing and a curse. It enables the best and worst tendencies of the visionary. Where sure, you may blow past your deadlines and actually piss people off, but where a publisher would pull the plug, they had ever-increasing revenue. And in fairness to them, much of that revenue is based on the actual fruits of their labor. They were just a little bit late. And so in this, we see the single most extreme version of both the pros and the cons of crowdfunding in gaming.
But here's the question, when is this going to stop? Because everything ends at some point, right? And that's something that we've been talking about for quite some time on today's live stream. It's backers' trust. The moment backers' trust declines is the moment when revenue drops. And we've seen that. We've seen the discussions on master modes, right? A lot of people are pissed about master modes. I'm personally not. I'm neutral. I'm always on a wait-and-see type of guy. I'm not much of a pilot anyway. I'm more of an FPS type of guy. So I don't mind master mode. But I understand, I acknowledge that in the community, it seems to be causing quite a stir, to say the least. I mean, look at Spectrum, for example. Everything's about master modes, even after Citizencon, right? Let me know in the chat as well. What do you guys think of master modes as well? Do you like it? You hate it? Is it a meh? Let me know in the comment section down below on YouTube as well. But it seems like it's quite a problem. I see a lot of comments on YouTube as well, all about master modes and how master mode sucks, and people are pissed and they want the old flight model back as well. It might be also causing people to close their wallets too.
It cuts both ways. Star Citizen is as stunning and ambitious as it is late. And for the people who are running it, who are all too aware of their massive financial burn rate, I think that money cannot be counted on forever. Because if 2021 to 2022 is a nice growth, but then 23 to 24 is actually flat or maybe a loss, then you may start to think, oh dear, this...
Well, it all depends on the expenses. As we know, they have laid off quite a few people in Austin and also in Santa Monica as well. So did that help? Were they perhaps expecting revenue to go down? Perhaps they were thinking, hey, 2023 was an exceptional year. It's not going to be all the time like this year. Perhaps that's also you like master mode, Maximus. All right, okay. So perhaps they were also expecting that, right? Now, how bad is the drop going to be? As I said, we're gonna have to wait for Intergalactic Aerospace Expo.
Thing has peaked and it's going to go down. And if that's what you fear, laying off 100 to 150 people sure does make sense. Hence, of course, Squadron 42. It's a standalone single-player game that could actually balloon. The problem with the persistent universe is it's hard to communicate to people what it is.
Yeah, because it's everything. And what does everything mean? Exactly, right? Plus, it's always in development. It's never going to be finished. Squadron 42 is going to be finished. Squadron 42 is going to be a full released product. It's going to speak to people. People are going to spend their hard-earned cash on something concrete here, Squadron 42, and that's probably why also they've separated Squadron 42 from Star Citizen, because they know that the way the game is going to be perceived is going to be completely different than the way Star Citizen is going to be perceived.
They think it might be an alpha or a beta, they don't know if it's got progression, they don't really know how it works, and why would you invest your time into an MMO-like experience that's on a test server? That just makes no sense to people. But Squadron 42, that is a full game experience. People can buy it, download it, play it, have their mind blown, and in doing so, learn most of the skills that they would need to navigate the persistent universe.
Absolutely. It's going to be like a giant tutorial for Star Citizen. And I'm going to use it as a tutorial as well for flying, because I suck at flying. I hope to be improving my piloting skills with Squadron 42. Absolutely.
And become a source of recurring revenue. That, in my opinion, is their gambit here. 18 Days of Crunch is nothing compared to 14 years of development, but the perfect demo, the demo that proves the haters wrong and says that the game is real, well, that is going to be worth something a lot more to them.
And I gotta say, I have seen a lot of fantastic comments. Normally when we get, Star Citizen videos on IGN, for example, right? It's always like, oh, it's a scam, it's terrible, it's unplayable. Every comment I've seen in the IGN coverage of Squadron 42 was people were mind blown. There was not a single negative comment, or at least I did not see any. So yeah, that has had quite an impact, I would say, on the global perception of what Squadron 42 is, right? There's always cargo mining a savage for those terrible pilots. Yeah, that's right.
You can only tell skeptics so much. Seeing is believing, and live crashes aside, that demo looks outstanding. And it likely looks outstanding because they felt they had no other option. With revenue potentially on the downslide and releases a little bit off, they need a big event. They need fresh blood, because they don't earn money from regular video game selling. They earn money by backers, by selling spaceships. But you've got a problem. If your community is stagnant, who are you going to sell spaceships to once all of your current spaceship fans have bought their fill of spaceships?
Exactly, right? But they got Squadron 42. People are excited. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. What? There's also an MMO that they are building out of that universe, and you can buy ships, right? Maybe that's a way that, I think that we're still in the discovery phase for a lot of people who were not aware of Star Citizen, Squadron 42, or maybe they were on the edge or not really sure about what was going on. They saw that video. I think we're still, it happens a lot, right? People are excited, but not really excited, but they're curious, right? They want to know what's going on. They're watching the demo several times. They're watching YouTubers, influencers, and then after, they're converting that curiosity into a sell. It could also be happening too, right? You just got your two boys playing, man. Oh, I'm not there yet. My son is 10 years old. I'm just afraid of the time he'll be spending a lot of his time on the computer and not going out there experiencing life. I'm so reluctant to making him play the game.
They need more people, and that's why they were willing to damage one of the foundations of their business to make this demo happen. It could be special. I hope it is special. It is a game that I want to play, a vision that I hope is real, but it's not one that you should pre-order on a whim. And it makes me wonder, whose whales spend more money? The Star Citizen whales or the League of Legends whales?
That's a good question. Anyway, that was a surprisingly good video. I'm going to subscribe here. Oops. Right there. Doing it right now. I was not expecting that. I'll put it also on Discord here. And check this. Did I put this in react to this? I'll put it right there.